Okay, here it is, the 2022 Platinum LED BioMax 900 versus the MitoPRO 1500 showdown. Let's get into it. Hey guys, it's Alex here from alexfergus.com, and yes, today I am going to be comparing the Platinum LED, the second gen Platinum LED BioMax 900 with the MitoPRO 1500. Now, this video may go on to be one of my most viewed videos, maybe even most controversial videos. I'm not too sure. We'll find out as we go through it, but it's definitely going to help a lot of people out, because one of the biggest questions I get in the red light therapy space is, which panel should I buy? The BioMax 900 or the MitoPRO 1500? I've put out countless reviews. I've reviewed both of these panels in great detail. I've done my comparison series. I've done answered hundreds, thousands of questions and emails, and publicly as well. And I still get asked numerous times a week, sometimes even on a daily basis, which one should I buy? And yeah, I've never really been able to give a definite answer, and I have a feeling even at the conclusion of this video, I still won't have a definitive answer. But what I want to do today is actually compare them across all sorts of metrics, and where possible, I'll announce a winner for each round, if you want to call it that. Obviously, things I can quantify, such as price, it's going to be easy to declare which one's better there. Some other areas I won't be able to give a hard and fast answer, but I may share my views and say, look, I like this one better because of this. In other areas, I'm not going to be able to say that. I'm just going to simply provide the facts or my experiences and let you come to your own conclusion. So who knows how it's going to play out. I have got a ton of data here after all my testing over the last 6 months or so, and I've put it all into a nice table, and I'm going to run through all this data and compare these panels, not just on price and power and all that, but also ease of use, practical things, things that you don't really pick up when you're on the website about to buy one of these panels, things such as like size and ease of use and how well it actually works, and yeah, all sorts of other bits and pieces. Okay, so before we start comparing these panels, what I want to do is a quick sort of rundown and background behind each panel and the company that produces these panels. If you have been following my work for a while, you may have even seen some of my reviews on these panels, because I have reviewed them all. I'll put links below. But back in 2019, I did a body panel comparison series. The BioMax 600, the smaller version of this Platinum panel here, took out that competition. MitoRed had a more basic panel, and very recently I did my 2021-2022 body panel comparison series. Now, in that comparison series, I had 12 panels. Be sure to check it out, it's really good. And this panel here, the MitoPRO 1500, came out number one. But again, the BioMax 900 wasn't included in that comparison series. And I've answered, if you're wondering why not, I've answered that so many times, I feel like I shouldn't do it again, because people that have watched my stuff over and over are going to get sick of it. I might touch on it though real quick. Instead of using the BioMax 900, I used the BioMax 600 in that comparison series. Now, two main reasons why I did that. Firstly, the BioMax 600 won the 2019 series, so I wanted to use it again in the more up-to-date comparison series. And secondly, the BioMax 600 is pretty much, these are new generation panels I should mention, is pretty much the same technology as this 900. However, it's a lot smaller. It's got 200 LEDs instead of 300 LEDs. Now, the BioMax 600 was actually putting out more peak power than the 900, so I thought it might have been a better overall panel. What I'm also going to be doing is a comparison between the BioMax 900 and the 600, so be sure to subscribe for that. And what I've also done is replayed that comparison series using the BioMax 900 as if I had entered it, so be sure to check that video out. BioMax 900, this is the new second generation panel from Platinum LED lights. This was introduced late last year, 2021. The company behind this panel have been in the LED space for over 12 years now. Originally, they started up in the grow light space, making grow light panels, and then they've leveraged all that expertise, knowledge, manufacturing process, etc., into the red light LED therapy space, and have quickly become one of the dominant players. In fact, The previous BioMax 900 was my go-to panel for many years. It's what I used, recommended, and personally had amazing results with it. They're no doubt the biggest competitor to Joovv, which is probably the most well-known red light therapy panel in the market. However, performance, functionality, features is so much better in these PlatinumLED panels compared to Joovv. I have reviewed the Joovv, and there's a few things I really don't like about this panel, which is why we continue to see the PlatinumLED panel growing. Over here we have the MitoPRO MitoPRO 1500. Now this is the MitoRed's newest generation panel as well, which came out recently. It was a big step up from their first gen panel, which is what I used back in 2019. They hit the market as a bit of an unknown, but they ticked a lot of boxes. Just a nice website, good quality panels, good features, good power, good price, good customer support. Just, you know, all around good, right? But there was no major standouts with their panels. Now with their new MitoPRO range, they've introduced multi-wave technology, a larger panel, some crazy high power numbers as well. So all of a sudden, you know, more and more people were sort of considering MitoRed over Joovv and of course over Platinum. Okay, so enough about the panels and the companies. Let's get into this comparison. So first things first, let's look at price. This is easy. Both of these panels come in at the same price, $1,149 US. Fortunately, we have a discount code for both of these panels, and that code is ALEX, ALEX. It'll save you 5% on both the panels. So they both come down to about $1,092 US. Like I said, there's no winner here, there's no loser, they're both the same. You're spending the same amount of money for either panel. So if you're coming at this from, you know, which panel should you get from a price point of view, unfortunately, it's hard to decide at this point. There are a few little things we'll get into later though. What about shipping? Both of these companies offer free continental American shipping. So that's great. If you live in mainland America, you know for $1,092, you're getting the ship to your door. What about international shipping? As I know I have a lot of international viewers. Well, this is where there is a bit of a difference. I put in an Australian address and a UK address in the checkout screen for both of these panels. Now, the BioMax I could get shipped to Australia for $80 US. I could also get it shipped to the UK for $80 US. Whereas the MitoRed MitoPRO panel was going to cost me $200 US to get it to the same Australian address and $140 US to the UK address. So it's quite a big difference, $120 difference if you're Australian and $60 difference if you're in the UK. So if you're in America, like I said, price-wise, no difference. If you're an international customer, the BioMax is actually looking a little bit better just because you are saving on those shipping costs. One thing I can't factor in though is your import duties and customs and all that, because there's just so many variables there. I've had panels come to me that I've had to pay import duties on. I've had panels come through that there's been no duties at all. So I don't know. I can't comment on that. I wish I could, but yeah, it's just too hard. But based purely on the price and the shipping, then the BioMax panel is the better option. Two final things I should mention on price and shipping. First thing, I noticed that if you buy multiple panels from either of these companies, you can get a discount. So for instance, if I buy two BioMax 900s, I save a few percent, it comes out to be $2,198. If I buy two MitoPROs, the price is $2,183. So a $15 saving if you're getting two panels with the MitoPRO. If you're getting four panels, and these figures are at the time of recording, February 2022, so it may change, but and they're before using discount code ALEX as well. I believe discount code ALEX will knock the 5% off these prices. The BioMax will come out to be $4,346 for MitoPRO 1500s, $4,228. So there's a bit more of a saving there if you're getting four panels. Remember though, you've then got to pay your shipping, and of course you can use discount code ALEX on it. Another thing I should mention, when I was doing all my research for this video, the BioMax 900s are in stock and ship right away. The MitoPRO 1500s are pre-order, and they're saying it could be a 2 or 3 week wait. Now remember, this is at the time of filming, so head over to the MitoRed website to see what the inventory situation is, you know, when you're watching this, and likewise with BioMax. But I did speak to the founder of PlatinumLED last year, and he said they did have a ton of stock because they saw what was happening on the supply chain side of things, and they made sure they had a ton of stock in hand, which is looks like it's been a good strategy because I know a few companies at the moment are low stock. So let's look at the panel itself. So first things I should note, both of these panels have 300 LEDs. So they're both the same size from an LED point of view, 300 LEDs in the 900, 300 in the 1500. But where it gets different is what these LEDs are doing, what wavelengths they're emitting, how much light they're emitting, and of course, how they're laid out with the shape. So let's look at all these things. Okay, so first things first, let's look at size and shape. Now, this is one of the biggest differences. There's 2 or 3 big differences between these panels. The size shape is probably one of the big ones. And personally, this one variable difference alone is enough for me to lean more towards one panel over the other. And that panel is the BioMax 900, all right? And this is for personal use. So let's run through the numbers first. The BioMax 900 is 12 inches wide, so a foot wide, and 36 inches high, 3 feet high. The MitoPRO 1500 on the other hand, as you can see, it's narrower. It's 10 inches wide versus the 12 inches here, but it is taller, 42 inches high, so 3.5 feet, versus your 36 inches high. Now you may be thinking, well, why does Alex prefer the 900, the BioMax, over the MitoPRO? Well, it's because of that extra width. And if you're thinking, hey, but this one's taller. Yeah, that's true, but let me go through this. I'm a guy, I weigh about 100 kilos, I'm reasonably wide, okay? If I have one panel, such as this panel, I know I'm going to get a much wider treatment area if I'm standing in front of it, okay? I can get, you know, from shoulder to shoulder to, I don't know, however high or low I want to hang it. The MitoPRO over here, it's a lot narrower. Whenever I use this on its own, I'm always wondering, do I have to do one half of my body and then the other half of the body? You know, if I'm standing center with the panel in the center, am I getting that full treatment area from shoulder to shoulder? It always, you know, it leaves me wondering, hey, should I move left or right? You know, should I move further away? And of course that irradiance drops off. I don't have those same thoughts with the BioMax 900 because it's so much wider, well, 2 inches wider. From a height point of view, yes, the MitoPRO is more appealing because it is longer. But here's where it gets interesting. Now, if I stand beside this, at the moment it goes down to, I don't know, pocket height on my shorts. You can't quite see it here. Pocket height up to my head, right? The BioMax head to, I don't know, maybe waistband height, okay? Either option on their own, I'm not, like, I can do my upper body, right? I can't really get my legs hit in that single session. You know, I do a lot of, I'm doing a lot of rowing training at the moment, a lot of squats, deadlifts, those sort of things. I want to hit my legs, all right? That's my key value add for the sport I'm doing. So neither option really treats that area if I'm also trying to do my head as well. Of course, if I drop it down to shoulders, then yeah, I'm going to get some more of the quads and that. But of course, I'm not going to get all the way down to the ankles or the calves if I get one panel on its own. So knowing that, if you just get one panel, you're kind of limited to a half body treatment. I know I call them body panel treatments. I know I call them body panels, but realistically, they're a half body, okay? So remember, if I'm using the 900, I can stand my 6 inches away. I'm gonna be able to treat shoulder to shoulder, head to waist, you know, in one treatment, okay? If I go over to the MitoPRO, yeah, I'm doing head to a little bit lower pocket line, but am I getting shoulder to shoulder? That's where I get a little bit hesitant. And I know there is going to be light shining over there, but is it going to be the same therapeutic dosage that I'll be getting in the middle? It's why I do like the wider one, okay? And remember, this is just one point of difference, right? There's lots of things to go through, okay? But it is a big one. Now, where it gets really interesting is if you get 2 panels, because this is what I use in my home office setup. I actually have 2 of these and 2 of these stacked on top of each other. And I'll show you that setup later. But where it gets interesting here is both of these panels offer modular capability, all right? So you can click 2 of them together or more if you want, stack them on top of each other, sync them all up and operate them from the one control panel. We'll show you that later on in this video. But where it gets interesting then is if you get 2 of these, you have a panel height of 6 foot, because remember, one BioMax is 3 feet high. If you get 2 of these, the MitoPROs, you have a panel height of 7 feet, because remember, one of these is 3.5. Now, you can see why, again, I do lean more towards the BioMax in this particular area. Because I'm 5'10". Most people I know around 5'10", 11, maybe 6 foot. I actually don't know that many people over 6 feet. I definitely don't know anyone at 7 foot. And, you know, even above 7 feet, you know, like 6'2" or 6'3", you know, you're getting from a standard deviation population graph, you know, you're not getting many people at that tall end of the spectrum, right? So if you get 2 of these panels, I personally think you have a much better setup, because all of a sudden now I can stand right in front of it, or this way or either way I stand in front of it, and imagine I have 2, I'm getting head treatment all the way down glutes, calves to my ankles, right? I do this with the MitoPRO, same thing. Yes, I'm getting head all the way down to the ankles, but I'm also going to get a lot of wasted light all the way up here. So that light, it's just wasted light. But at the same time, you've still got that narrow issue where you're thinking, hey, am I getting the full, you know, width treatment? And you often, in fact, I have thought when I'm using this, if only I could take those LEDs that were above my head and put them down the side so I got a bit more width. And that's exactly what the BioMax does with 2 panels, remember? So if you're looking for, if you know you're only going to buy 1 panel, like I said, both of these are only going to do half a body. The BioMax is a little bit wider, so you're getting that extra width. The MitoPRO is longer, but you don't have that width. If you're going to get 2 panels, which is what I highly recommend, then all of a sudden the BioMax is a much better setup, because you're getting a 6 foot higher treatment area, 12 inches wide panel at the surface here. You're getting more use, you're getting more real world use from a panel that's this shape. Now, the thing is, that's quite an easy thing to change, right? Like, MitoRED could easily come out with a panel that is wider and not as tall, and all of a sudden that advantage the BioMax has is gone. But for the time being, that's not the case. You can't get a wider one. Well, you can't get a MitoPRO that is wider. So for this particular round, the size, shape round, I have to give it to the BioMax 900, and I've touched on the reasons why. And if you don't agree with me, fine, just leave me your comments below. I'm curious, you know, maybe you are a 7 foot high NBA player and you have 2 of these and it's perfect for you. I'd love to know. All right, so now let's look at power and performance. Now I've already done all the testing, so I have the numbers here in front of me. Pretty much, if you're looking at pure peak power, the highest reading I could get when I move my spectrometer across the face of the panel, then the MitoRED MitoPRO comes out higher than the BioMax. But wait, there's a few things to know. Remember, that's just peak power. That's just the highest reading I could see. Now, the number I had here was 88.2 milliwatts over centimeter squared. The BioMax 900 had a peak reading of 82.7. So what's that? 5.5 milliwatts difference. In all honesty, it's not much of a difference given how high these numbers are. Like, these numbers are insane. A couple of years ago, we weren't even close to these figures. So both of them are putting out a huge amount of therapeutic light. There's no issues there. Yes, this one is high. Why is the smaller BioMax 600 then putting out even more irradiance than the 900? Well, that's because this 900 has been throttled, so it's not putting out the same, it's not putting out its full potential. Now, Mark explained this in my interview with him. The reason is, if you get multiple panels, multiple 900 panels, and hook them all together, you're going to trip the your circuit. All right, so they've had to throttle it back a little bit, so that's not the case. And like they said, you know, the numbers are already extremely high. They personally didn't see it as a big issue. And I kind of agree with them, because we're at a point now where like in a couple of years' time, I don't think it really matters if the panels are going to get aren't going to get higher than this from a power radiance point of view. Like, honestly, these things put out a ton of power. But I have wondered if it's just like a technical limitation. Why not just enable that when you're in multi-panel mode? Like, you could easily have it so if you only have 1 panel, then that throttling doesn't kick in. I mean, I don't know, maybe they haven't thought about it, or maybe they couldn't be bothered, I'm not too sure. But this has potential to put out more power than this from a peak power point of view. But if you buy any of these panels from a peak power point of view, this one is going to be higher. What I actually put more emphasis on is the total wattage output. Now, I do this by taking an average of 9 points around the edges and 3 in the middle, and then I find the treatment area, or the surface area of the LEDs, and then I do a calculation and I get the total wattage output. And this is what I find to be more useful, all right, in my reviews and when it comes to buying and comparing panels. Now, for this figure, the BioMax 900 actually comes out on top. it had a wattage figure of 147.7 watts. The MitoPRO over here had a figure of 136. So you're getting 11 more watts of light, therapeutic light, with the BioMax 900 over the MitoPRO. Now, if you're thinking, how does that work? They're both 300 LED panels, and the MitoPRO had a higher peak. Well, there's a couple of reasons. Firstly, the treatment area of this, because the BioMax 900 is as closer to a square, it's wider and not as tall compared to this, you're actually getting a larger surface area, right? You're getting a bigger surface area. The other thing is the LEDs are more compressed in the spacing wise in the MitoPRO compared to the BioMax, okay? So that could actually explain why the peak power in here is a little bit higher than the BioMax as well, because those LEDs are compressed more, the light's concentrated, you're getting a higher reading. But in here, we know that the LEDs are really high anyway, maybe not quite as high, but they're still putting out a ton of light and you're getting a larger treatment area, hence why the total wattage that I'm measuring is higher in the BioMax 900. I know that all gets a little bit confusing, but in a nutshell, the area I have here is 2,052 centimeters squared, whereas the LED area here is under 1,800. So it's quite a big difference, and that's purely because of the shape of the panels, plus the compression, how close the LEDs is spaced. It's almost like a moot point because both of these panels, like I've said so many times, are putting out huge amounts of light, right? I had the first gen BioMax, which wasn't putting out anything like these numbers. It was still very powerful for its time. And I had exceptional results with my body and recovery and all those things. So you almost think, well, it doesn't even really matter. Like, we're talking a few percentage points difference between the two of them, whether you're looking at peak power or total wattage. But, some people do want to know these things, and I wanted to compare them. So you're getting more light per area in this panel over the MitoPRO, but both of them are doing a pretty good job of putting out a ton of light. Okay, what about wattage draw? Now, I used a device that measures the amount of watts going into each panel from the mains. They were pretty much bang on the same, both about 800 watts, so there were no differences there. All right, now let's talk about wavelengths. Now, both of these panels are what I call multi-wave panels. They're putting out numerous wavelengths, not just your standard 660 and 850. I'm not going to go into the details. It's a video that I need to do. I have touched on it over at my blog, alexfergus.com. There are, pretty much if you're new to red light therapy, 660 nanometers, which is your red light, and 850 nanometers, which is your near infrared light, are the gold standard, the main two wavelengths that have been well researched and well utilized from a red light therapy point of view. Back in 2018, when the PlatinumLED released their BioMax panels, they introduced their advanced, I forget what they call it, their advanced LED light spectrum BioMax range, which was the first gen one of these. Now, they used 5 wavelengths. They used 630 nanometers, 660, 810, 830, and 850. But what they did is they dedicated 80% of the power going to the big two, your 660 and your 850, and only 20% going to those, what I call alternative wavelengths. And they've got a really good article explaining why they did this. I'll put a link to that below. It's over at the Platinum Therapy Lights website. And they also go through their justification of, the science that supports these alternative wavelengths and all that. And back in 2019, when I did my first body panel comparison, they were the only panel that offered those multi-wavelength options, which I thought was really neat, and it was part of the reason why I really like Platinum, because I wanted to tap into those other wavelengths, right? Because I knew there was some good science supporting their use. So they've continued that same spectrum here in their new second gen panels with the same ratio. The bulk of the power is going to your tried and tested 660 and 850, and then they've got a little bit of light going to, or a little bit of energy going to those other light waves. The MitoPRO second gen panel here, they've got 4 wavelengths in this panel. All right, they've got 630, 660, 830, and 850. But what they've done is evenly split the power between all 4 of those wavelengths. So you've got 25% of power going to 630, 25% going to 660, 25 to 830, etc. I like the fact that there's alternative wavelengths in there beyond the 660 and 850. I also know that 660 and 850 are the most researched and well known to be the most beneficial. I personally have had great results using the BioMax first gen panels over the years. Remember, that uses the same light spectrum as the second gen panels. And I also know there's a market for these alternative wavelengths, But at the same time, there's some people that don't want the alternative wavelengths. They just want the 660 and the 850. Which one's better? Like I said, I can't answer it. Let's say you've found a study that shows 830 nanometer light is going to be very beneficial to a particular health condition you have. Then you know 75 of the LEDs in this panel are going to be emitting 830 nanometer light. Whereas in here, only 5% of the 300 LEDs are emitting 830 nanometer light. So you may think, well, this one's going to be the better option for me for those reasons. But if you haven't really looked at all the studies and you just want to get something that's going to work, then you might be more inclined to stick with the 660 and 850, which remember 80% of the power is going to those over here. But at least you're getting those other wavelengths in there as well, but you know, only 5–10%. Do you see what I mean? It's very hard to answer. Comparing these two panels, I mean, one could argue that the BioMax is better because it's got the 810 nanometers in it, which is not in the MitoPRO. But then this MitoPRO has a lot more energy going to the 630 and 830 that the BioMax have. I could go around here all day. But end of the day, I guess what I'm saying is, unless there's a specific use, you know, you want to tap into one of those wavelengths, yeah, maybe leave the wavelength decision out of the picture because you could spend weeks looking on PubMed and trying to figure out which one's better. One other thing I need to talk about on the topic of wavelengths is hotspots. Now, I tested this in my 2021 comparison series, and the BioMax 600 didn't do very good. The MitoRed MitoPRO did really good. And what I was looking for there is how well that light is being blended onto a surface. It's at 6 inches. Now, one of the reasons why the MitoRed did so well here is they've got a nice blend of light. Like I said, the 4 wavelengths are evenly split from a power allocation purpose. When we look at the Platinum BioMax, you've only got, 10% of the light going to 630 and 40% going to 660. Now, what that means is you're not going to see the same blend that you will see in a MitoRed light. Now, the hotspot thing, it was very controversial back then when I published it because it was a new category, a new testing category, and it's what let MitoRed ahead against everyone else, and it's why the BioMax, you know, they were neck and neck up to that point, and the BioMax dropped off. So a lot of people were like, well, you know, if you take that out, the BioMax would have won and stuff, and yeah, I get that. Back then, well, not that it was that long ago, when I was filming that, I wanted to include that because it was something that had come up a lot in my testing and reviews and comments and stuff. I still think it is something to point out because if you're standing in front of a panel and you're seeing like all the red light here and then a big gap with no red light and then all the red light here, you know, you're not getting that even spread. Sure, it might be a wider panel, but if you're not getting that even spread, it's kind of like, hey, it's not what you're after. You want a nice blend of light, and you want to know that you're getting the right dosage across the body. But what I've been thinking lately is with these new panels, they're so much higher powered that if you take another inch step back and you go to 7 inches and stuff, that blending, that hotspot polka dot effect, pretty much vanishes across all the panels I tested. Of course, as you go closer, it's more pronounced. And you can do that. Like if you are really worried about like, you know, uneven blending, uneven treatment areas on the body, and you've got one of these panels, just take another step back. Of course, with the MitoRed at 6 inches, you don't have that problem. But with the BioMax, you go out to 7 or 8 inches and it's gone. Like, and you're still getting a massive amount of light. Now, I'm not saying, look, the BioMax, you should buy the BioMax for those reasons or anything like that. I'm just saying, if you are worried about the hotspot issues, that's one way to resolve it, I guess. Of course, you're getting a drop off in power, but it's just something I've been thinking about, right? Okay, so now we've looked at the power and the pricing, we can do some value calculations. Now, because they're both the same price, the value per LED on both of these panels is the same, $3.60. But when we break it down to a dollar per wattage figure, that's how much you need to spend to get 1 watt of irradiance. This came out with a dollar per watt figure of $7.40. The MitoPRO came out with a dollar per watt figure of $8. Okay, now let's look at EMF, sound levels, and flicker. First things, none of these panels have any detectable flicker, which is great and to be expected. Sound, it was interesting. I've always said anything under 50 is really good, 50 decibels. When I tested the BioMax 600, it was about 50 or 51, I think it was. That was in my comparison series. The MitoPRO over here has a decibel reading of 52. This is at 6 inches. The BioMax 900, I just tested this the other day and actually came out quieter. It was 49 decibels, so it's 3 decibels less than the MitoPRO, which was quite surprising. I'm not too sure why it is quieter than the 600, but hey, it is. In all honesty though, like if you're around that low 50, sub 50 mark, it's not a big issue. It's when you're up at, like, when you're comparing one panel at 60 and the other at 50, that's when it's a big noticeable difference. But hey, the BioMax is slightly quieter. When we look at non-native EMF levels, the panels are very similar here, though one is ever so slightly better. For electric fields, there's no detectable electric fields at 6 inches or 3 inches for either of these panels, which is great. When we look at the magnetic field, we were nice and safe out at 6 inches on both panels, which is great. When we came into 3 inches, the MitoPRO was slightly better. It had a reading of 0.12 microteslas. The BioMax had a reading of 0.23 microteslas. Now, remember that's 3 inches. The standard treatment area distance is 6 inches, and at those distances there was no reading, so that was good. The difference between the two, yes, there is a bit of a difference, but it's not massive. It's not, you know, again, using the decibel sound example I used before. It's only a few points. I mean, they're both in the orange based on the building biology standards at 3 inches, but you're in the green at 6 inches. But if you're super sensitive to EMF, then hey, that is something you may factor in, and you might want to go with the MitoRed over the BioMax. Okay, what about stands? Now, both of these companies sell stands for these panels. Platinum have 3 options. MitoRed have 2. They both have their vertical mobile rack stand, and they both sell their vertical stands for $299. They both have a horizontal stand. The BioMax horizontal stand is $299. The MitoRed horizontal stand is $20 cheaper at $279. Platinum also sell a wall mounting bracket for $69, which is pretty cool. At the moment, I have these hanging from hooks on the wall. These hooks have gone into the stud. There's 30 odd pounds hanging from it. Now, if you didn't want to have a hook there, but you wanted to mount it on the wall, you can get that wall bracket and mount it on that way, which is neat. I've never used that before. I just seen it on their website. $69 for that. So hey, it's another option. I have tested the BioMax. The horizontal stand. I've got a review of that. I'll put a link to that below, so you can go check that out. It took a bit of time to set up. Great for using it if you want to use it on a bed, you want to lie down. And for $200-300, it's probably good value given that you're spending $1,000 for one of these anyway. But there's no, I mean, the MitoRed guys have their horizontal stand is slightly cheaper, but then the BioMax guys have that wall mounting bracket option as well, so they got a wider range. The other thing I should note is MitoRed were out of stock at the time of filming on both their vertical and horizontal stands. Platinum had stock on all of their stands. So again, if you're in a hurry to get one of these, then maybe that is a deciding factor. Otherwise though, there's no real clear winner here. Okay, now let's look at ease of use, and in particular the control panel. Now this is another point where there is a big difference between the two panels. Let's start with the MitoPRO panel. Now, this particular control panel, I mean, it works. It does everything you need it to do. It's rather straightforward. It's got a built-in timer. You can alternate between your red light and near infrared lights. Yeah, I mean, it does all the basics, right? It's what we expect from any panel in the market today. Though there is one thing I really don't like with this panel, and it's when you turn it on, if you just hit start or OK to get it going, by default, it only runs red light and not the near infrared light. You actually have to go in and hit mode to enable the near infrared light as well. I've been caught out a few times because remember, I'm using both of these panels in my home office at the moment. I just come in quickly, do a 5-10 minute session, hit start, away I go. And then I realized, oh, the near infrared light isn't glowing. That means the near infrared lights on here aren't working, because the near infrared LED, these, we can't see them. They're invisible to our eye, all right? So you need to manually enable it. Obviously, if the red light wasn't going, you'd know straight away because there'd be no glow. So I don't know why that's the case. I don't know. I see it as a bit of a bug. Like, it would just be nicer by default that both were running and you had to disable one rather than the other way around. Because I reckon there's a lot of people using these panels that probably don't even know that, and they're not even tapping into the benefits of the near infrared. They're just getting the red light, which is, it's a bit frustrating. There should be a sticker at least, or I don't know, personally, like I said, it should be the other way around. When we come over and look at the BioMax 900, the 2nd gen panel, we're seeing something very, very cool and very, very unique. It's a touchscreen panel on here. Now, this panel, it still has all the same options, same menus. You know, you can disable your near infrared and just have red light, or vice versa. There's a timer in there. It's very easy to just navigate the menus. It's not complicated. But there's also a few more new features as a result of this touchscreen control panel. The first one is you can actually change the power output, the amount of power going to the red or the near infrared lights. And there's a sliding scale. You just drag it up and down, so you can have full power to red and 50% going to near infrared. Or if you want it as a background ambient light, you might just have 1% going to red light and none going to the near infrared light, and you're not using a ton of electricity. So that's really, really cool. When I first heard of it, I thought it was a bit of a gimmick, but after using this panel and doing some thinking, I realized there's quite a lot of potential there. Like, one option is, of course, that you want a red light, in the evenings, and you can have it on the 1% red, and like I said, you're saving on the electricity. Another option is if you have to stand really close to this panel for whatever reason, maybe it's in a cupboard and you're really close to it, and it's just too intense. You get getting dry skin or itchy skin, or it feels too hot, or it's just overloading the body. You can go in and drop that right back down to, say, 80% or 70%. You couldn't do that with the MitoPRO or any other panel, for instance, because they're kind of set, and that's a downside with these higher powered LEDs. Some people do have like dry skin or develop rashes, or they just find it to be too intense for their body. Another example is, let's say you're doing a meditation or a workout or something, a home workout, and you want the red light panel going at the same time, or you're doing yoga. With these power outputs, you really only need 10 minutes, 20 minutes max per treatment session. But if you're doing a 40-minute meditation, you can just go in and drop that power down and know you're not going to overdose the body. So it's another good reason. And then, of course, you've got the whole biohacking experimentation side of things. You can go in and customize those blends and see what works better for you for a particular health problem. So it is really cool. It's not just a gimmick. There is some real world use to it. And again, it's another big plus for the new BioMax panels. One other thing I should mention is these new BioMax panels have a wireless control option. If you do have multiple panels going, you can sync them up wirelessly and control all your panels just from the one control panel, which is neat. So you can, if you got 2 stacked high and a couple on this wall, you just need to turn on one. And if you change the sliding power scales, it changes it across the board, not just on the one, which is really cool. Previously, you had to connect them all together with a data cable. You can still do that with the BioMax panels, and if you do use the data cables, the Wi-Fi is disabled. But if you use the Wi-Fi, of course, then you got to go into the settings to enable it. But it is a neat feature. A lot of people won't use it, but it is a nice add-on as well. Finally, when we're talking about the control panels, both of them are positioned quite high, on the panel, which is fine. But if you have 2 of these panels stacked on top of each other, which is what I do, remember the MitoPRO goes up to 7 feet high. This one goes to 6 feet high. I'll tell you now, if you're linking 2 of these, the MitoPROs together, and you just want to control it from one control panel, which is what you'd want to do, you've got to reach up quite high, 7 feet high, to touch those buttons. And it's a little bit tricky for me. I guess I'm a little bit short to see, the numbers clearly, and you're sort of fiddling around up there. Of course, I could do it I could set the bottom panel as the main driver, but yeah, then I'm 3.5 feet down and playing around with it. The BioMax 6 feet high is just a lot easier to use. It's pretty much eye level, well, just above eye level for me, a lot easier to use. So just one little extra thought there on, if you are getting these panels to stack too high. All right, let's look at returns, warranties, and certificates. So return policy, both of these companies offer a 60-day return policy. I couldn't get too much information on the BioMax return policy, but when it came to the MitoRed panel, I saw that there was no restocking fee. The customer had to pay return shipping, so you're paying to send it back. You get your product cost back, not shipping fees, which is standard. $25 fee for any missing accessories. And if it's returned in a damaged or unsellable manner, then the item is returned back to the customer and the refund is refused. Now, again, I couldn't find specific details like that on the Platinum website. would say it would be similar, maybe a few differences on, you know, missing items and stuff, but it's pretty standard across the product range or across the board. Though some, I think Platinum may have a charge, a restocking fee if there's damage to it, which again is to be expected. When it comes to warranty though, there are a few differences here. So both companies offer a 3-year warranty. MitoPRO have a repair or replace policy, so you know if something goes wrong and they can repair it, then you send it back, and they will then cover the return costs because it's their fault, I guess, which makes sense. But that only applies for the first 180 days. After that, the buyer pays for return shipping. It's a bit of an odd policy there. Like, you've got a 3-year warranty, and if the product goes wrong, you know, why should you have to fork out? I'm not quite sure why they've put that specific 180 day cutoff period in there. And they deal with everything on a case by case. Platinum, they did have a lot of information on their website about warranties, and to be honest, there was just too many scenarios in there for me to condense it into a short little, you know, few bullet points. So if you're worried about warranties and potential issues there, make sure you go over to the Platinum website and have a read of their warranty policy. But pretty much it's a case by case basis. If the panel is faulty, then Platinum will cover return shipping. There was no mention of a 180 day or, you know, time period on that, so I guess it's valid for the 3 years, which is good. But yeah, like I said, you really need to go through and check the website out, because there was just a ton of different scenarios that played out on their description. Okay, now we look at certificates. Now both of these panels are RoHSCE certified, but Platinum also have a few other certificates to their name. The first one is FDA Class 2 medical device. The second one is that they are ETL/UL inspected and improved, which I'm told is harder to get than FDA approval. It's a bit of a process, and it means that all their internal componentry and wiring is checked and made sure everything is built in a high quality, safe manner. So yeah, I mean, I've never really looked into the certificates before. It was just when I was researching, you know, all the data points to compare for this video that popped up. So I did a little bit of digging and thought I should mention that. As you can see, these panels are very similar, but there are a few differences, okay? As I wrap this up and go through, you know, my recommendations for different scenarios and why you may go with one panel over the other, then pretty much I just want to say that, look, either of these panels are going to do what you want it to do. Like, if you want a really like good quality body panel to help with recovery or skin health or whatever it may be, both of these panels are going to do the job. All right, there's no denying that, and that's true for pretty much all the panels on the market today. It just comes down to which one's better value, which one's easier to use, which one has the nice features, which one's easier to install, which one's going to get there faster, which one's going to be cheaper to ship, all those sort of factors, right? Of course, like, you don't want a really low powered, high EMF, horrible sounding panel, and that's not the case with these panels, okay? So I just want to put that out there, okay? You can't go wrong with either one. If you've purchased one and now you've watched this video and thought, oh, I should have got the other one, don't feel bad about it. I mean, like I said, I'm using both of these panels. In fact, I'm using two of these and BioMax 600 in my home office setup. And I'll be happy with either or. However, depending on your situation, there may be a panel that is better suited to you. So first things first, let's go through a few scenarios here. The first one I had is, let's say you're an international outside of America customer and budget, you know, you're purely focused on budget. In that case, the BioMax 900 is going to be your go-to panel. It has the cheaper international shipping, plus it's in stock. The MitoPRO at the moment is more expensive to ship to Australia and the UK, and there's a 2-3 week waiting period. So there we go, BioMax for that case. Okay, what about if your main focus is 660 and 850 nanometer light and you're not worried about these alternative wavelengths? Well, in that case, the BioMax 900 should be your option, your go-to panel here as well, because 80% of the power is going to 660 and 850, whereas over here, only 50% of the power is going to 660 and 850. What about on the flip side? If your main focus is some of these alternative wavelengths, in that case, I'd recommend the MitoPRO, because it has 50% of the power going to 630 and 830 nanometers. Sure, the BioMax has an extra wavelength. It has it has 5 wavelengths in total, but you're only getting, you know, a few percentage points going to some of those alternative wavelengths. So if alternative wavelengths is your thing, you might want to seriously consider the MitoPRO. So what about if you're planning on buying 2 panels and you're shorter than 7 feet tall? In that case, the BioMax. For the reasons I've touched on in this video, it's a wider panel, 2 tall, 6 foot high, 1 foot wide, much better setup, wireless syncing, which is nice to use. The control panel is going to be at eye level unless you're quite short, instead of reaching up really high like you would with the MitoPRO. Okay, what about if you're one of these people, and I'm in this category, where you've come to a decision that yes, you want this product and you want it now, and you don't want to wait. In that case, and again, this is based on the data I have as of right now, the information I have right now, MitoPRO has a 2 to 3 week pre-order period. BioMax is in stock. So if you want one of these panels today, well, not quite today, but in the next day or two, you're going to have to go with the BioMax, otherwise you'll be waiting a few weeks. What about if you want a red light therapy panel that you can also use as like a background light, you know, the nice red light glow in the evenings without the melatonin suppressing blue light? Well, in that case, BioMax is probably going to be the better option. I mean, yes, you could use either of these panels as a background light, but you're going to have a much higher electricity bill and be putting a lot more heat into the room using the MitoPRO, because it's going to be running those red light LEDs at full power. Over here, you can drop the power right down to 1%, just have the red light LEDs running. Your power bill is going to be lower and there's not going to be as much heat. What about if you're a bit of a biohacker and you want to play around with, you know, different light protocols? Say you want to have max red light with only a little bit of near infrared light for a particular skin issue. If you want to do stuff like that, then really the BioMax is your only option, because that's the only panel on the market where you have those sliding controls to allocate different ratios of power to your red and your near infrared lights. With the MitoPRO, yes, you can choose between red or near infrared, but you can't customize how much power is going to each. What about if you want to set up multiple panels in a room, or you're going to have quite an elaborate setup, you know, maybe 1 or 2 on the ceiling and on the wall and stuff? Then in that case, I'd probably go with the BioMax, just because you do have that wireless connectivity option, and I have used that. It is a nice to have feature. Though you can do the same with the MitoPRO, you just got to run a few more cables. So yeah, maybe, to be honest, maybe it depends on your size and how you're going to set it up. But the BioMax Wi-Fi wireless option would be a nice little add-on. Okay, now finally, and this is probably going to be most people watching this, what about if you live in America, you just want to buy one panel, and you just want the best panel you can get? Well, I think based on the key things I've just covered, the sizing differences, the great power, the control panel differences, I think you have to go with the BioMax. I mean, for the same price, you're getting a better size panel, and it's a nicer panel to use. You're still getting some alternative wavelengths, but you know that you're not gambling on alternative wavelengths that may not be that effective, because 80% of the light's going to 660 and 850. You're getting the same warranty periods, returns, there's no big differences there. You can get the same stands, the pricing for the stands is pretty much the same. It's in stock at the moment. I know that could change, you know, next month, but hey, it's most of the views I get on these videos are when they go live for the first week or two. It's a bit of deja vu, yeah, because back in 2019, when I did my comparison series, the BioMax 600 came out on top, right? Not long after that, I got my hands on the BioMax 900, and I came out with a video saying, hey look, yes, the BioMax 600 was good, but the BioMax 900 is better. And the BioMax 900 for the next few years was my go-to panel. When people asked for the best panel, it was the panel I used, it was the panel my family used. Fast forward a few years, and the MitoPRO came out #1 in the comparison series, because it is an exceptional panel. And I didn't have the 900 in that comparison series. So now, a few months later, I'm doing this extra video, and here I am saying, hey look, maybe the 900 is a better option for you. Now, I'm not saying that it is a better panel across all markers and metrics, because, you know, the MitoPRO does have some good features that the BioMax doesn't have. But when you really stop and have a look at it, given that most things are equal between these panels, low EMF, low sound, pretty much similar power readings, no flicker, come with the same accessories, all that sort of stuff, same price. Then the two key differences are that touchscreen with a few advanced options, which of course the BioMax is a better setup, and the size, the extra width with a slightly shorter panel, which is better because if you're only using one panel, you're getting a wider treatment area. If you're going to have two, this is going to be a better setup than two MitoPROs. And for those reasons, that's why I think, you know, the BioMax is probably your better option, BioMax 900. Now, if you're thinking, well, hey, well, does that make all your recommendations in my 2021 comparison series redundant? No, not at all. Because, I mean, anyone that's watched that series would have got a lot of information from it. And like I said in that series and here again in this video, all of those panels are going to work. It's not a matter of like finding out which one works. It's just finding out which one's better, I guess. What's interesting though, if the BioMax 900 was in my 2021 comparison series, the MitoPRO still would have come out on top by half a point, which is crazy. And that's mainly because of the big difference we had in the hotspot round. If you take that round out, then the BioMax would have come out on top. But it just shows how similar these panels are and how one thing may influence your decision. I'm affiliated with both of these companies, I should mention. So I'm not trying to, you know, it's not like, hey, I get commission from one and I don't from the other. If you buy any of these panels through my links, we use discount code Alex, I get a cutback from both of these panels, from both of these companies. So thank you for that. Thank you for the support. But it just shows that I'm not trying to promote one over the other. Like, end of the day, I mean, I just want to try and give you the facts and try to help you guys out. If you still got questions or if you still need some clarity or help with a decision, leave your questions below. I'll do my best to answer it. I can't promise I will, but I'll do my best. And if you do want to buy one of these panels, again, use discount code Alex, you save 5%, I get a little cutback. And if you don't agree with something I've said here, or if there's something I've missed, please leave that below as well. Not just for myself, but for other people, because if you are watching this and even after this, 45-minute video, however long it's gone, you're still thinking, oh, which one do I go with? Hopefully the community below will be able to help out. If you've got either or of these panels and you want to share your own experiences and feedback, again, leave that below and it will help other people out, and I appreciate it as well. So I'm glad I've done all this now. It's going to be interesting to see the reaction. Hopefully help you guys out. Give me a like, give me a comment, give me a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe. Check out, I have reviewed both of these panels in detail as well, so check those videos out if it's going to help. Otherwise, I will see you later.